Diana Gabaldon's best-selling novel series Outlander has a passionate following, but it's not without controversy. Today we'll discuss how Outlander handled the book's most controversial moment, and a few other questionable ones. First up, what scene in the book is considered the most controversial? The first book has a moment that both the book's critics and some of its supporters agree is unsettling. Outlander's sensitive 18th century Scotsman Jamie Fraser belts his new wife Claire to make up for endangering his men, treating her similarly to how he would treat a man. The rest of the crew also makes it apparent that they've taken their fair share of belt lashings. But there was no criticism when the sequence appeared in this week's mid-season premiere. Is this just the culture brought on by 50 Shades of Grey catching up to us? Or in this case, did the show succeed in outdoing the book? Both are the correct answers. There is controversy about this belting scene. Gabaldon admitted to Vulture, for years and years, that scene has been a source of controversy because it's told from Claire's point of view, and she certainly thinks it's a big deal. Some readers, particularly female readers, often share their sense of indignation and outrage and start hopping up and down about, how dare Jamie, how dare I? Next up, how did the show tackle the controversial belting act? The mid-season premiere The Reckoning is the first episode to be told from Jamie's perspective, which seems like a strange coincidence. Jamie gets to narrate in the book series much later. The Jamie voiceover is a quick method to change the point of view, according to show creator Ronald Moore, and readers and viewers must comprehend the 18th century context of the act. If you merely read the novel, you'll only experience Claire's fear. I felt deeply betrayed that the man I depended on as a friend, protector, and lover intended to do such a thing to me, and my sense of self-preservation was quietly terrified at the thought of submitting myself to the mercies of someone who handled a 15-pound claymore as though it were a fly whisk. Because it follows Jamie and Claire's liberating wedding night, that encounter is all the more startling. This scene was handled superbly by the show. Outlander didn't just change the episode's point of view by using voiceovers to ensure that viewers wouldn't like the famed belting scene. Moore claimed that the soundtrack played a significant part. There was a point where I wanted to say, you know what, it's going to be okay. This is a show that goes to dark places, but this is not one of them. This tells them, relax, enjoy it. It's kind of fun on a weird level. Just go there. Next off, did Outlander change the scene to make it less controversial? The series has occasionally descended into darkness, generally due to the sneering antagonist Captain Jack Randall, who not only savagely flayed Jamie earlier in the season, but also kicked Claire repeatedly while lying on the ground. This violence can be distinguished from that violence a great deal by the music. Moore went so far as to consult several female showrunners to determine the ideal time for the music to begin. If you brought it in too soon, the scenario lost its edge. It reduced the stress, Moore told Vulture, and it started to feel unpleasant if you brought it in too late. The scene is rather close to the book, including Jamie's virtually word-for-word line of rigid 18th century logic. There's such a thing as justice, Claire. The scenario is also relatively faithful to the book, except for the musical cue and the shift to Jamie's point of view. You must pay for what you did wrong through suffering. Next off, are there any significant line changes in the dialogue? However, a few essential line adjustments have been made. The on-screen Jamie says, "I said I was going to punish you. I didn't say I wouldn't love it." Rather than telling the outraged Claire, "I shall put a knee in your back and beat you till my arm tires. And I warn ye, you'll tire of it long before I do." It's possible that 50 Shades of Grey had an influence here. It reappears later in the show when Jamie and Claire have some very consensual, slightly rough to mend their relationship. Dirk to the neck? That act must have been in Mr. Grey's Red Room. Next up, Season 1, Episode 7, The Wedding. The belting scene was not the only controversial scene in the series. Nothing compares to the first time, especially between Claire and Jamie. Claire and Jamie had recently tied the knot when the episode introducing the public to the perfect between our two favorites aired. The two are supposed to marry immediately because it is Scotland in the 18th century. Claire's just starting to accept the fact that she's falling for a man other than her husband, and Jamie's a virgin, so they're both scared and humiliated. It doesn't last very long before Jamie reluctantly admits, "I didn't realize you did it face to face. I thought you must do it the back way, like horses." Thankfully, there's a second installment that formally begins the blush-inducing Outlander adventures to which we've grown used to. Before the couple engages in love, the disrobing is painfully slow. Claire is so vocal that Jamie believes he's injured her. Only if the man's a perfect lover, Claire says in response to his question about if the cries of passion will happen every time. Through Season 4, Jamie continues to demonstrate that he is in fact a perfect lover. Next off, Season 5 finale. In the time-traveling drama's Sunday Season 5 finale, Dr. Claire Fraser, portrayed by Katrina Balfe, is by a group of men who feel threatened by her new healing techniques. Her daughter Brianna, Sophie Skelton, was assaulted in a bar 1 season before her, and her daughter Jamie, Sam Hewen, was by his archenemy Captain Black Jack Randall 3 seasons before that. Not included in this unfortunate tally, in Season 2, while their adopted son Fergus was being violated by Black Jack, Claire was compelled to have sex with Louis XV to free Jamie, and in Season 3, Jamie was blackmailed into having sex with a British woman, which resulted in the birth of his only son, Willie. Meryl Davis, the executive producer, stated to Entertainment Weekly in 2018 that there's a lot of in Diana's books. Executive producers Matthew B. Roberts and Balfe, as well as Davis, declined to comment on the conclusion. Obviously, we've seen some of it, and every time we try to figure out what's best for the story, we want to be sensitive to the character going through this situation. Next up, Episode 1 of Season 6. The first episode of Season 6, which includes various new developments such as the entrance of the Christies, gives the impression that life on Fraser's Ridge has returned to normal. However, Claire is still troubled by her assault. She awakens from a nightmare in which Lionel's taunting during her kidnapping is mixed with other painful episodes from her history towards the conclusion of the episode, following a frightening visit by Lionel Brown's brother Richard, Chris Larkin, and his men. While attempting to pour a cup of tea, she finds herself completely distracted by another temptation. As an entrepreneurial doctor from the 18th century, Claire's been experimenting with ether. This general anesthetic will allow her to operate on her patients painlessly. She is nonetheless drawn to its quality since they provide her with a way out of her mental scars. She's alone in the operating room as she puts the ether mask over her mouth and nose, takes a deep breath, and then passes out on the bed. It's a devastating sequence that significantly deviates from the incidents in the books. While Gabaldon does in her writing show Claire's struggle to survive, she doesn't self-medicate as she did in the drama. Instead, Claire's shocked by unexpected visitors and reacts with innate horror when someone reaches out to touch her. Next off, Season 3, Episode 6, A. Malcolm. The Outlander actor Sam Hewen and the show's writers have publicly disagreed over a tweak to a well-liked book sequence, so there's trouble in paradise for lovers. It appears Hewen strayed from the plan, and not just the audience is unhappy with his decision. The top brass at Starz has long known that fans of Diana Gabaldon's books would be sifting through the most recent episode of Outlander, looking for any tiniest deviations from the book. In the print shop scene, a well-known and beloved moment from Season 3, Episode 6, the long-separated Jamie and Claire Fraser are eventually reunited. Star Katrina Balfe acknowledged this significance a year ago when she called VF.com from the Season 3 set. The first thing fans talk about is the print shop, where Jamie and Claire are reunited after decades apart. Are you going to do the print shop? You can't change one line of the print shop. We haven't gotten to film that yet, but the writers know they have to do the fans right. In the book, Jamie is overcome with emotion when he sees a picture of his daughter Brianna, who's now an adult. Hewen chose to portray Jamie's response as much more manly and contained when the episode was filmed, and the viewers noticed when they saw the episode on Sunday. It's by no means the first occasion that fans have objected to even minor deviations from the book. Next up, Season 3, Episode 8, Leary Shoots Jamie. A great villain is a must in every good story. Leary was always known by fans as the one who is simply there to make trouble and build a rift between Claire and Jamie. She doesn't have many redeeming characteristics, but even the hints that she was once injured by one of her husbands makes us feel sorry for her. When they learned that Jamie had married her, everyone was shocked. He chose the woman who attempted to have Claire burned at the stake out of all the women he could pursue. Of course, it's a little more complicated than that, but when Leary shoots him in the arm, things genuinely do turn for the worst. Luckily, Claire's a nurse, and she patched him up. The show Outlander has played some great tricks to create a scene that would be less controversial than it had originally been. Even though the show managed to leave the belting scenes controversy behind, it still managed to have other controversial scenes. Which Outlander episode is your favorite? What Outlander episode is most controversial in your opinion? Make sure to let us know your thoughts down below. Thanks for watching.